Portugal has made a truly historic decision, one that will be remembered for generations to come. In a world where international relations are often slow to change, Portugal has chosen to take a bold and principled stand. On September 21, 2025, the Portuguese government will formally recognize the state of Palestine, joining a growing list of nations that are taking concrete steps towards supporting Palestinian statehood. This date will mark a turning point, not only in Portugal's foreign policy, but also in the broader European approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The announcement comes just days before the United Nations General Assembly convenes, sending a powerful message to the international community. Portugal's decision signals a significant shift, aligning itself with a growing international consensus that recognizes the urgent need for a two-state solution and the rights of the Palestinian people. Prime Minister Luís Montenegro, after extensive and thoughtful consultations with the President and members of Parliament, ensured that this move had broad political and public support. The decision was not made lightly. It reflects a deep commitment to justice, peace, and international law. Portugal's recognition is more than a diplomatic gesture. It is an act of solidarity with the Palestinian people, who have endured decades of conflict, displacement, and occupation. It is a statement that their aspirations for freedom and statehood are legitimate and deserve global support. For millions of Palestinians, this recognition is a beacon of hope. It validates their long struggle for self-determination and offers renewed optimism that peace and justice are possible. Across communities, both in the Middle East and in Europe, the announcement has sparked celebrations and a sense of renewed possibility. As world leaders gather in New York for the UN General Assembly, Portugal's bold announcement challenges other nations to reflect on their own positions. It encourages the international community to reconsider the urgency of a two-state solution and to take meaningful steps toward lasting peace. With this courageous move, Portugal places itself at the forefront of a new diplomatic push for peace and justice in the Middle East, inspiring hope for a future where all peoples can live in dignity and security. Portugal's timing is inseparable from the devastating conflict in Gaza, which has claimed over 65,000 Palestinian lives, most of them women and children. The humanitarian catastrophe has shocked the world and created a moral imperative for action. A recent UN report accused Israel of acts of genocide, fundamentally shifting the diplomatic landscape. The ongoing violence and suffering have made diplomatic inaction indefensible. Portugal's decision is a direct response to this crisis, recognizing that the time for Palestinian statehood is now. The scale of destruction has pushed the issue to the top of the global agenda. For Portugal and many others, recognizing Palestine is a crucial step toward justice and peace. Portugal's recognition of Palestine is rooted in humanitarian values and international law. The government's concern over Israeli settlement expansion and the threat of annexation drove the decision. Public support in Portugal, including protests and campaigns, gave leaders a strong mandate to act. This move is a rejection of the status quo and a call to protect the vulnerable and uphold the law. By recognizing Palestine, Portugal affirms the shared humanity and dignity of all people in the region. Portugal joins a global wave of countries recognizing Palestine, including Ireland, Spain, and Mexico. As of September 2025, 147 out of 193 UN members have recognized Palestine, creating a powerful international consensus. Western nations like France, the UK, Australia, and Canada are coordinating their announcements for maximum impact. This shift reflects a belief that recognition is now a prerequisite for peace, not an obstacle. The traditional approach has failed. Now, a just and lasting resolution is demanded. The growing chorus of nations signals a fundamental change in the global conversation about the Middle East. This coordinated push demonstrates renewed commitment to international law and multilateral diplomacy. As more countries join, pressure mounts for genuine negotiations and a two-state solution. Despite a growing wave of international support for Palestinian statehood, the United States stands in firm opposition, setting itself apart from many of its closest allies. While countries across Europe, Latin America, and beyond moved to recognize Palestine, the U.S. government remained steadfast, arguing that such actions are premature and could destabilize the fragile peace process in the region. The Trump administration, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the forefront, has publicly condemned these recognitions, claiming they undermine efforts to achieve lasting peace and, in their view, reward acts of terrorism. U.S. officials argue that unilateral recognition only serves to deepen divisions and complicate negotiations, rather than fostering dialogue. The official U.S. position is clear. Palestinian statehood must come only through direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians, not through international declarations or external pressure. American diplomats emphasize that any lasting solution must be the result of mutual agreement, warning that outside intervention risks derailing the process entirely. In a dramatic move to reinforce its stance, the U.S. has denied visas to Palestinian officials, effectively barring them from key diplomatic meetings and international forums. This action has not only deepened the diplomatic rift with its European and Middle Eastern allies, but also sent a strong message about the lengths to which the U.S. is willing to go to defend its position. This clash has exposed a fundamental disagreement among Western powers over the best path to peace. While some advocate for immediate recognition as a catalyst for negotiations, others, led by the U.S., insist on a more cautious, negotiation-driven approach. The U.S. holds veto power at the United Nations Security Council, a critical tool that allows it to block any resolution granting Palestine full UN membership. This power has been used repeatedly, frustrating advocates of Palestinian statehood and complicating the international community's efforts to move forward. The growing divide puts the European Union in a difficult position, as it seeks to balance its own calls for a two-state solution with the need to maintain strong transatlantic relations. EU leaders are increasingly pressured to adopt a unified policy, but internal disagreements persist. Critics argue that the U.S. stance effectively gives Israel a veto over Palestinian self-determination, fueling frustration among activists and analysts alike. Protests and heated debates have erupted in capitals around the world, reflecting the deep divisions this issue continues to provoke. As the world moves forward with new diplomatic initiatives, the United States remains a major obstacle in the evolving landscape, its influence shaping the future of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the prospects for peace in the region. Diplomatic recognition is significant, but real challenges remain on the ground. Israeli occupation and settlement expansion threaten the viability of a future Palestinian state. The Israeli government's opposition to Palestinian statehood makes negotiations seem distant. Violence and instability in the West Bank hinder institution building and deepen despair. Internal Palestinian divisions and conditions set by some Western nations complicate unity. Critics warn that recognition alone, without action to end occupation, changes little for Palestinians. True independence requires more than symbolic gestures. It needs sustained international pressure and support. The path to sovereignty is fraught with obstacles, but recognition is a vital first step. Recognizing Palestine is more than a symbolic act. It has real legal and political consequences. Portugal's recognition means treating Palestine as a sovereign equal, impacting international relations and forums. Each new recognition increases pressure on Israel and its allies, strengthening the Palestinian case. It empowers Palestinian diplomats and shifts the balance in future negotiations. While full UN membership remains blocked by a US veto, recognition enhances Palestine's status and access to international bodies. It allows Palestine to seek justice through legal avenues like the International Criminal Court. Recognition affirms Palestinian identity and self-determination, challenging the narrative of endless occupation. This validation is essential for building hope and a foundation for lasting peace. The UN remains central to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the upcoming General Assembly session is pivotal. A recent resolution, backed by 142 states, calls for irreversible steps toward a two-state solution. The UN's role is to channel global will into concrete action, while agencies provide life-saving aid in Gaza. Yet, the Security Council's veto power often leads to stalemate. Despite its limits, the UN offers a moral and political framework guiding nations like Portugal. The world's collective voice is demanding decisive action for peace. Portugal's recognition of Palestine is an investment in the possibility of peace. This decision is not just a symbolic gesture, it's a powerful statement that the international community can no longer ignore the urgent need for a just and lasting solution. By taking this step, Portugal is sending a message that peace is not only desirable, but achievable, if nations are willing to act with courage and conviction. It signals renewed commitment to a two-state solution and offers hope to both Palestinians and Israelis. For many, this recognition breathes new life into a process that has too often stalled or been overshadowed by violence and mistrust. It reminds the world that peace is possible when both sides are treated with dignity and their aspirations are acknowledged. This momentum challenges the status quo and insists on a resolution based on justice and international law. It encourages other countries to reconsider their positions and to support efforts that prioritize human rights, equality, and mutual recognition. The world is watching, and every step toward justice matters. For Palestinians, it affirms their right to self-determination. It validates their struggle for recognition and a homeland of their own. It gives hope to a new generation that their voices are being heard and that their dreams of freedom and statehood are not forgotten. For Israelis, it links security to a viable Palestinian state. True security can only be achieved when both peoples have a future to look forward to, free from fear and uncertainty. A stable, independent Palestine is essential for lasting peace and safety in the region. Recognition alone isn't enough. It must be followed by courageous diplomacy and concrete actions. Words must be matched by deeds and promises by progress. Only through sustained engagement and honest negotiation can the foundations for peace be built. The international community must push for a freeze on settlements, lifting the Gaza blockade, and real negotiations. These steps are essential to create the conditions for trust and cooperation, and to address the root causes of conflict that have persisted for generations. The future of peace depends on both leaders and ordinary people embracing hope over despair. Grassroots movements, civil society, and everyday citizens all have a role to play in building bridges and fostering understanding. Change begins when people refuse to give up on the dream of coexistence. Portugal's bold move is a call for the world to finally make peace a reality. It is an invitation for other nations to join in, to support dialogue, and to work together for a future where peace is not just an aspiration, but a shared achievement for all.